Hello, welcome to another weekly live stream, although lately it's been like every other week. Hopefully we can get more regular soon. Tonight we're just basically continuing where we left off last time in a way. I'm still trying to just convert everything over to get it integrated with the game. I'm as tired of working on this as you are as tired of watching it, probably. But hopefully we'll make some progress today and we can get to the point where hopefully we can integrate soon. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. Yes, that is the patrons scrolling up. You can see, like right now, I've got the little view frustum. These are the patrons that are scrolling. They help keep the lights on, and it is super awesome that so many of you have supported me for so long. So I really appreciate that. Anyway, yeah, so fooling with perception sets again, so I'm trying to integrate that. But, so really quickly, I was trying to get it so I could toggle these on and off. So let me get that finished real quick. I think, let me see. You know what, I'm just going to do it the cheap way, which is, if enabled, else blah blah, and so then we set call hint, and I think I'm gonna need to import that. I'm just trying to finish up what I'm doing, and then I'll go over what I've been working on, because I've like refactored some things a bunch of times now, and I'm not willing to say it's the final time, but so far so good, right? Hey, how's it going? Is that Fizzy Arthur? Yeah, Fizzy Arthur. Welcome to the live stream for this evening. Call hint. If we're enabled, we inherit. If we're disabled, it would be always. I think that's it. We'll see. So then I should be able to click this and turn them off. Yep, look at that. Okay, so then the only other thing I need to do is make that the default. Alright. Alright, so let me see, and they're not quite lined up correctly, and I'm not sure why, but that's I'm very much lately in the works good enough, and you'll see why in a second. So I struggled with the physics queries that are let me turn this light on. A little less in the dark that way. As you know, I've struggled many times with the physics queries that are used for the pathfinding, and so I added a bunch of debug stuff. I don't remember how much of this was here before, but for example, so I don't think any of this was here before. So yeah, like I have been working on Mythruna 2 to 3 hours every night for the last 2 weeks, just trying to get some of this sorted out, and I'm really tired of dealing with it. So this is the, as we know, like the rigs. I think if we load the human female up here, I think I showed you guys this before, where we can go through the model and we can describe what their sort of physics probe looks like. This is the same physics probe that's used for navigation paths, and that is used for contact avoidance and stuff as they're walking around. And each of these different colors means different things. Like green means that they can stand on the ground, although it's not perfect. Blue means that they could step down to it. Pink is supposed to mean step up, and orange is supposed to mean jump up. And then if any of these red blocks are hit, then that means it's blocked. She can't walk through it. And so this was the perception set, or not perception set, the query shape that I was using for a long time. And the reason I made it too wide and too deep is because that gave me, like, I'm limited. They have to be cubes, and I wanted it to be like a certain scale and still cover her width. And you can see if I like make them, you know, one, it's like too thin. And so it's like it's a balancing act between how many layers I want and the size it needs to be and all that other garbage. And so I made it too wide, but this turns out to be a big problem because of how the physics engine queries work, especially with like block shapes. So what I did was I added this little thing that I can put a query down, like say she was standing here, what would happen? And so it shows me the thing and then what contacts I get. So it shows me the floor contacts here, and to some extent it'll show me what action, like if it's a floor contact it won't show me, but then I have these little buttons I can use to move it around. So this would show me that she would have to step up to that. That's why it's pink. If, for example, I moved it all the way over here, you know, it would be orange because that's where she'd have to jump up to. But it allowed me to figure out a lot of things. For example, the yellow and the orange here means that when we first hit, we got this sideways contact, which normally would be a blocker, except for we didn't have any red, which meant that I could query up one more and figure out that, oh yeah, technically I can move up here, so that's still just a jump. And then there's some other queries additionally that like figure out exactly where on that surface I can jump to. But the big problem was that you can see it's lopsided because it hits both cubes, but I have to pick one of them. At first I was averaging them, but on slopes, if you're not facing a particular direction on the slope, that's wrong. You can't average them because, you know, one might be higher than the other. And anyway, this turns out to be a problem regardless of how I solve that. And so I actually went back to and as experimental, I went back to let me finish on this. So I had developed this whole thing, and I put this into code so that I could use it in the visualization as well as the navigation function. And that's how I started discovering all these different special cases, you know, where this doesn't work right. And this actually causes problems if you're on, let me move the query to like here. When you're on the edge of things too, like I've fixed a lot of this stuff, so I'm not sure if it's still going to be a good illustration, but when you're on the edge, yeah, so it's not showing the ground contacts, but like technically I'm over the edge here, but I still get ground contacts, and there's a certain point where I'm over the edge enough that I should fall, but it still perceives ground contacts. And so like it was pathfinding ridiculously close to the edge or over the edge of the edge, over the edge. And so like pathfinding along the tops of these walls, for example, she was constantly just falling off. And so anyway, I switched it to, so after messing with that and putting all this debug in, another debug thing I put in was during this navigation phase, like if we say, I want you to go to the front door, you know, start, you've seen this one before. So it shows me where I'm headed, and then if I show the pending, you know, it shows me, why aren't you showing start? Step, 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 step. No, something is wrong. Great. So let's say clear, start, step, step. Crap. So something broke. How did we already get to where we want to be? Something I did broke it. Hold on, let me move her around a second. Actually, it could be that she's using the new model. Anyway, what was I going to show? Oh, I'll show it because I think I broke her. Because I've been using a different rig. So when I was talking about, so this is the rig. This is the human female rig, and so as an experiment, I've been messing with the elf female, and I gave her a simpler shape. And I've decided that I don't need to tell the difference between step down and ground. They're all just, she can stand on them, whereas any of these mean that I have to potentially perform an action to get up there. And technically, the only one that needs to be different is the blocks. And the reason is because of the way, let me see if this will work. So the way the physics engine works is, it is not working. Oh, it's loading slowly. So the way the physics engine works is, so say you have a block here, and you have some other shape that penetrates, like say another block that's penetrating. It figures out, technically there are a lot of contact points here, right? Technically there are an infinite number of contact points, but there's no real good contact point to use, but the physics engine is structured in such a way that we really just want one contact point. So it will pick the one that will fix penetration the quickest, right? So it'll find the shortest penetration, and that is the contact it will use. But what that means is, if you had some huge like overhang here, and you human person were walking into there, your entire blocked section would be completely inside of this wall, but your contact then may be down here, because that was the quickest way it could get, like the physics engine wants to prevent penetrations. That's what the main reason for contacts are. So it's going to want to move, it's going to tell me this contact is here, because that's the quickest way to fix this problem, right? But that looks to me like a Y value of my chest. I could potentially jump up there, but no, it's pointing down. It's red. So basically anytime we get a contact with these red areas, that means we're blocked, because this block or part of this block was inside some other physical structure. So that means we're blocked. Whereas any of these others, it's up to interpretation. Based on the Y value, if this area is completely inside of a block, well, I need to look at the other contacts. Were all of these clear, which means I could probably jump up to the next level up, and so on and so forth. So really, it's basically red is important, and all the other ones could be treated the same. That's what I've come up with. And so let us see if, oh yeah, this is the wrong way. So let me see if the human elf is working to show you what I was going to show the other elf female rather. Okay, so elf female, will she navigate to? Let's center on her. Let me go ahead and delete the human. Unfortunately, that sticks around. So yeah, so she has the simpler query shape now, right? And so yeah, so that's why it was broken. She couldn't walk anywhere because we weren't even getting ground hits for her, whereas now we'll get ground hits, because I've changed the algorithm based on that we're always going to have symmetrical shapes now. And so human female doesn't work anymore until I fix her collision shape. So elf female is who we're test with, and you can see it's showing me the ground contact, and the other thing is, like the nav path stuff actually works on a grid, and so no matter where you move this weirdly to, you can click this grid button and it'll snap it to the nav grid. So that's where it is. And so if I wanted, like, yeah, so it's neat. It'll collide with things in the world too, right? That really technically means that characters can walk and jump on other characters, which I think is kind of funny. So let me show you what I was going to show you before. Let me reset things for a second. So what I'll do, the one way I can get those query shapes to go away is to reload the script. And so we get a clear field. Alright, so the other debugging I had added, which is like a feature now of the whole rigger tool and any playground, and so I added the ability to set up hooks for if you click on one of these visualization objects. So if we wanted to navigate to the front door, you know, we start, and you've seen this view before where I can say step, 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 and it's showing me so it's showing me all the sort of pending paths left to try, you know, without like the in-between things. These are like these are the pending endpoints where I'm going to try again, and I can step through, and the yellow one is the current best one, and so that's the one it will try next if I'm doing single stepping like this. And so she'll figure out her way up. But what I was having issues with was I was seeing cases where, especially coming down off of these, like she was exploring the whole patio here, or the whole porch, before she would even step down. And so I was like trying to debug that. And so I set it up so that I can click on one of these and it'll show me information about it. Like eventually I want it to be like a pop-up with the information, and then it would show me the path to that point. But anyway, I can click on this and it'll show me, you know, the total cost and, you know, the individual cost and the heuristic. And so then I can click on this one down here and it'll tell me something different. And so anyway, that turns out to be tremendously useful, and it wasn't even that hard to implement in the end. I think it took me an hour and a half. But it has since saved me hours of time, so it was definitely a worthwhile thing to do. So anyway, she goes here, and so now we can execute that path, and she'll like do the standard thing. I was also playing with the scaled ones, and so if you create a teeny tiny elf female and you try to get her to walk, she will not be able to make it up that. So I think this is, yeah, so her. So she's too small to make it up there. So I created these other little steps for her, and she'll figure out a way up, and I'll show you that. So if she wants to go to the one to start, and then step, 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 step. She's still on the same grid, though. That's something that's going to have to fix. But so she won't be able to make it up there, because that's too tall. Like, that's almost as tall as her head. But if we step up, she eventually finds out she can go around that way, which I think is cool. I also put these up here to see what the minimum sort of block size is where I could technically just walk up. And it turns out this is about it, but you still get stuck because the feet get stuck. At any rate, so we can send her up there like that. She walks too fast, right? But that's another scaling issue. So there she goes. Boink, 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 boink. She's so cute. Little teeny elf. So anyway, and actually she can go all the way upstairs, but she can't get back down because she can't walk down these steps. So if I needed her to go like over to the table over here, so I play a lot with these. So if I want her to go over to table 1, you know, start, and then step, 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 step. So she's going to eventually make it over there, but she has to go down these steps to get there. Actually, yeah, so there she goes. You can see her walking, and she takes kind of a circuitous route. The other thing is sometimes in the, yeah, she has to hop up the ramps for some reason. So anyway, she'll make it eventually. Again, it's not perfect, but it's good enough, right? Because I actually don't include a lot of the ramps in the world at this point. Everything's a step up, so we're going to send it, right? I'm going to try to get all of this stuff in the engine, and we can make some mobs that actually can navigate the environment, which they currently cannot do at all. So the other thing I was playing with was, let me go ahead and delete the little baby. And then we'll control her down here. The other thing I was playing with was more complicated paths. So I put a little bridge over here so that if they go up here, they can make it over to these walls. And I had a previously impossible to reach chest up here. Technically, they can make it there now, and so I'm going to see if she can make it. Usually, a lot of times she'll fall off the wall. So yeah, there's the unreachable chest, which is no longer unreachable. And so like we'll expand out. So I mean, she tries to take the shortest path there. She can't get there. She can't get there that way. So eventually she'll figure out she can go up these. So we'll see her start to go. Yeah, so she's up on top of there now. She's up on the wall. Probably in the real game, I would cut them off by now. If they can't figure it out, it's too much. So yeah, so we've got the whole little path. She is bound to get stuck on something or fall off in the corners. But we'll see. So if we execute and we follow, so we can watch her do it. So actually she may walk up there. Oh, look at that. She's doing the best she's ever done. She might fall off there. Oh, no. Yeah, so she falls off the... Yeah, that's funny. Her hand is keeping her up on the wall there, but she's going to fall at some point. Yeah. So now she can't make it. Yeah. So that's a problem with... let me cancel... So, you know, we added the contact avoidance, which, you know, automatically makes her steer around stuff like that. You know, she's just steered around. Like if I face her to the wall, she'll turn automatically. It's still trying to send her over. Anyway, but there is nothing like that for falling off the edges of things, and so I need to put like two little probes down by her feet. So if she walks too close to the edge, she tends to turn away from edges. And that will solve a lot of that problem. But before I started messing with this, it was actually making paths that were just over the edge. So at least the paths are on the edge now instead of just over the edge. And like I said, if she had edge avoidance, she would have avoided walking into this little pit here, which is what made her fall. Because the way the diagonals work, they don't know that there's a hole there. But contact avoidance would have, you know, that probe would have dropped and said, oh no, I need to steer her this way, and she would have just steered around it like she would steer around a chair or anything else. And then she would also do the same thing at this corner, and she would eventually make it up there. Unfortunately, actually, I think I can just execute again and she'll try it again, because she had a clear path to the start of the path. But I think she's going to fall again. Sometimes it's random. There she is, up on the wall, up on the balcony thing. Yep, she fell again. So if I cancel and control her back over to the start, I can probably get her to at least continue the path by being somewhat clever. Okay, so let's follow her again, and this time we will execute the existing path find. Anyway, this has been my last couple weeks, is just debugging all these little edge cases in the pathfinding, and this is the best it's been. Okay, so if she gets up there, I need to cancel. There we go. So now I can control her around that little corner. And because of the way the pathfinding works, she should figure out that she's further along on the path. If we just execute again. Uh-oh. Nope. There must have been a little jump in there or something. Yeah, because she jumped. Yeah. Oh, well. Oh, no, I know what that was. Okay. I know what that was. What I need to do is... I need to get her up there, and then I need to recalculate the path. Because what it does is she goes through all of the existing paths. She found out she was already past the end of that one, so she finished it, and then she jumped. That's why we saw her jump over here, because she'd gone mentally, she'd gone through this path, jumped to get to this path, and then she figured out she was here, but it was too late at that point. Let's see if she'll figure it out if I just say execute. She should head to here. Oh no, she's trying. Oh yeah, okay. She figures she's some point along this path already. Ah, look at that. Okay, I have to be ready to cancel again. So welcome to my past couple weeks. This is what I've been doing. Okay, so from here, let me control her a little further over here, and then we will recalculate the path to the unreachable chest rather. So we go around like that. I think she'll fall off the corner. So we got a new path now. If we execute that, I believe she will fall off on the corners, because that's what she normally does. Oh, she made that corner. Will she make this corner? She gonna get up there? Oh no! So she's actually caught on these corner blocks. Their collision shape is actually a full cube, and so she's caught on that cube. If I control her and move her slightly over, she should figure it out, and we can try again. Yeah, there she goes up. Okay. So she should actually make it this time. Okay, so she made it to the unreachable chest. Anyway, this has been what I've been working on. Creating situations that they may or may not be able to achieve, and then seeing how it goes. And then trying the different sized characters, which has been lots of fun. And then, so today, right before the live stream, what I was working on was getting the perception visualization so we could mess with porting that stuff over to the new agent, the sort of what can I see stuff. Let me show you one more thing. Let me delete her. Oh crap, yeah. And let's create another teeny little elf female. I think this will be small enough to go under the table. Oh yeah, follow center. Okay, unfollow. Okay. Can she fit under the table? Yeah, she can just fit under the table. So if I send her to the smithy, she should take a path that's under the table. So let's send her to the anvil. Start. Step. Yeah, so she'll take a path under the table, which I think is cool. So like the way I've done pathfinding is a real pain in the ass. Pardon my French, but because of it, when characters are shrunk down, they can fit in places that other characters. So I get a lot of neat things for free. And these tables are objects. This table and the chairs are objects placed in the world. They're not blocks. So I needed to be able to handle that. One thing I can't handle right now is a character standing on moving stuff. So when I have airships and things, I'm going to have to revisit this and do something to allow pathfinding on objects. I believe it's going to have to be kind of like when they're on the ship, they can only pathfind on the ship, but one of the actions they can take is to leave the ship, and then they're in kind of a different, physics world at that point. So that's like almost like two physics worlds. Let's see if she can make it into the. She should go right under the table. Super quick. Here she goes. She should open the door, which I don't know how she did. Yeah, that's the other thing is. She's trying to get in the wall here because I allowed diagonal traverser through the door, but so she took a diagonal path and got into the wall here, and there's nothing checking to see if I added it and then I removed it again. I need to put it back, but when you make a hop, there's nothing checking to see if that action is actually viable. And so anytime you get And because normally once you're inside of a wall, the next step would be also inside of the wall, and so it would cancel out. But in these rare cases where you get a diagonal into a wall, and then you can get a diagonal back out again, then it considers that a valid path even though she can't actually get there. So basically at the beginning of the nav function, I need to check, hey, is the current path we're even trying possible? Because the other thing that can happen is, and I think I talked about this last time, is if I had a character standing here and that character could jump up to here, technically in 2 moves they could jump up to and through this window, but if they're too tall they shouldn't be able to jump up onto that ledge. Yeah, I'm trying to like... So if I had a full-sized character right here, and I tried to get her to navigate to the bed, there is actually a case where she thinks she can jump up onto the window ledge and jump back down because the nav function says, oh yeah, there's a step up right here. But then when we go to this stepped up position to see if we can jump back down again, there's nothing checking to see if this is a valid position. Like, I could put it on the part that's finding the actions, like if I feel like I can jump up onto this ledge, check to see if I actually can. But that's extremely wasteful because you're going to try... Every position is going to have at least 4 or 8 actions coming off of it. And it's better to not bother doing the extra physics query for those unless you think you're actually going to go that way. You know, she'll issue 8 different queries around here, one of which would be up on the ledge. If she's only going this way, that automatically gets ruled out because she's never going to go that way. But only if we're trying to get to the bed does she go up there. And so when we go to check this one to figure out where we branch from there, that's where we need to verify that it's valid. I'm going to see if she can... I'm going to see if we can illustrate the problem, though it's hit or miss a bit. So if we go to the bed, start, step, 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 step. She should figure out she can jump up there. Yeah, so far no. So it could be that I've broken jumping up onto ledges. But I found this problem when I first got her to be able to jump up onto this porch directly without having to go around to the steps. You know, if the pathfinding cost was low enough. But yeah, now the only way she'll get to the bedroom is to drop off because she's already tried that. So, okay. That's fine then. Apparently I accidentally fixed that, but that is definitely a problem that I'm going to have to deal with. So anyway, what we're working on, I think for the moment, is one of the missing pieces is the perception sets, which is if I wanted to implement the dog, I have to have them be able to see stuff and recognize when something comes into their view and out of their view. And you can see there's like a dead zone here. So there's also going to have to be kind of a bubble around the mob of things they're aware of that aren't like directly in their field of view. Because like when we're sitting, when we are sitting, there's sort of an awareness of the things that are around us without like looking directly at them. And so there's going to be some kind of, in addition to this, some kind of perception set that's a sort of a sphere, offset sphere, maybe just a little bit of it behind us, mostly in front of us, to cover this gap here. And then I may shorten the distance and stuff, but in Mythruna, distance is really important. So that's what I was going to play with today. I've been slowly moving things over, cleaning things up. I'm not quite ready. I was thinking tonight we could port like the whole pathfinding stuff over, but I feel like there may be one more minor refactoring in that. I have to, and it's so much easier to develop in this tool than it is to develop once it's in the game. But here's a case where oh, that's the wrong. Let me Yeah, so let's move that down here and delete the little one, because that's going to confuse me. So right now, the way stepping down works is if this if the probe moves down like this, and there's a, like, let's move this down here and I'll show you what an actual step down looks like. So first of all, let's center the camera on her and then move over to here so we can see better over here. Okay. So actually I could just nav control her down here, so then she's right near where we need to be. Okay. Alright, turn off the perception set. Okay, so normally a step down, the normal step down is part of the nav action stuff, but what it does is when we see that we've plopped off and we get this blue activation, that means it's in a cell, or if it's in one of these, right, we're going to step down. And we detect that. The problem comes, oh, my Pepsi's deciding to crawl back up the straw. The problem comes in the bigger ledges like this. If I step off this edge, I'll never get a blue because it doesn't go all the way to the ground. And so I would like to get rid of this altogether and change how I do actions, so that if you were, let me hit the grid. So if you were here and checking all the different directions, and so you checked this direction, and found out you'd be stepping off into empty space, that would add a navigation action of fall. Right, so you'd have a fall action that would take you down, one grid cell. And then if that turned out to be another path we explore, we would have another fall, because there's nothing underneath us in fall. So you might get 3 fall actions that take you down to the floor here. And so that requires the ability for me to chain together actions of a certain type. So if I get to this sort of pending what are the next actions position, and the action I'm on is a fall action, then I'm limited in the options that I can take from there. I can either fall again, or perhaps there's a little bit, in Mythruna, just like in some video games, you can continue to move a little bit while you're falling. And so technically I could catch an edge over here, so there might be a little movement allowed. But the point being, this will cover cases where even if she's standing like way up here, if she's fleeing, she might be willing to take the fall damage to get away. If there's a big nasty thing coming after her and she's standing up here, she might be willing to take that fall damage all the way down, just to get away from it. Take the fall damage and keep running. That might be the best route for her. It's going to be, like, cost-wise, it's going to be calculated as being expensive because we want to discourage those kinds of paths, but it should be open to the character, especially the ones that can fly. And so, like the Gayfin, which are kind of like sort of fly, they don't take fall damage, so dropping from here is fine. The only reason we'd want to discourage it in pathfinding is because getting back up is not something they could do. But still, if they're fleeing something, that's a perfectly reasonable direction for a Gayfin to go. For those of you who don't know, maybe this is what a Gayfin is, right? These little bird creature things. And they don't take fall damage because they're kind of like chickens in that they can fly a little bit. And so, like, if you come down, he just kind of flies down. And so the Gayfin are special, and they can also eventually jump super high, which they can't at the moment. But so anyway, I actually looked it up to see how high you have to build your chicken coop to keep a chicken from flying out. Because, always in video games and stuff, we tend to see, like, the place where the chickens are just kind of held with, like, these maybe a meter high fence or something like that. But you've got to build your Essentially, they said if you don't put a roof over it, the chicken can fly out, because chickens can actually fly. So even 2 or 3 meters tall, they can technically, if they're really motivated, get over that. So I found that interesting. So Gayfin will be able to fly a little bit. All right. So how to proceed? So there's a bunch of things. Let me go ahead and delete the Gayfin. We'll, go ahead and let things restart here. Clean up the detritus of previous debugging. And so now we've got a clean elf female we can play around with. And so what I thought we would work on today is the whole perception set stuff. So I have that so I can at least debug the view. I'm getting much better at adding these things because I did that like the hour before the live stream started. But you can see, for whatever reason, let me center back on her, that it's not quite on the eye point. And it's worse on the dog. So the dog, if I turn the dog on, it moves even relative to their eye. So it's not just a rotation. Sometimes it's in their forehead, sometimes it's out of their forehead. So there's something wrong there. But I think that based on how Mythruna did it, because I copied this code from Mythruna, and I'm using the visualization to position these, and in Mythruna these frustum objects were positioned down kind of like at the physics engine level. And so I think when we do that, it will probably fix itself, but we're going to have to come and readdress where we're putting these. And anyway, in any case, for debugging what's happening, these are probably close enough, presuming I can get the other ones positioned correctly. But what we want, and I'm not sure how exactly I'm going to debug this, but it could be, we could make it so that it highlights the ones that have moved in and out of somebody's view. And that those, so like put something above the dog's head if it's seen by the player or the mob. Just trying to think how we want to debug things entering and exiting. And then we'll turn that into a trigger, a signal generator, so that, and the signal generator will kind of be smart enough to know things that have entered the view and left the view. And so we'll get signals about those if we're willing to listen to them. And then from that, there'll be some amount of memory, because the dog is particularly interested in not just things, but mobs entering its view that it hasn't seen recently. So if this elf female moved into his view and he hadn't seen her recently, he'll come running up. That's the behavior we're trying to get to. So the dog needs to know things that are entering and exiting his view. He needs to have some decision made based on what kind of object it is and whether he's seen, if it's a person, if he's seen that person recently. If it's just an object being thrown, maybe he'll go chase it anyway. Because that's what labs do. Alright, so let's turn off one of these at least. So we'll play around with the elf female, and let me see what it's going to take to copy that code over. I hope you all have had a productive week. I hope it's more productive than mine has been. This has been quite a week. And then like Tuesday, I dropped my wife off at physical therapy, and then when I went to pick her up, the back tire of my car was hissing. And so we were watching the tire pressure gauge all the way home, trying to get home before it ran out of air. Pulled into the driveway with 8 psi, 7, closing down to 7, and so then I had I'll deal with that later in the week, getting the tire repaired. People leaving nails in the road. That's not fair. All right. This is the nav function. Yeah, it's just like one thing after another, and then yeah, medical procedures different family members have had to have, and scheduling all that and getting it straightened out. What do I want to do? Yes, let's look at how Mythruna did it in the original code. So we had these perception sets, which I could probably just steal directly, honestly. Yeah, and it had a personal space. It already had all this stuff. I think probably these needed to be wider because I made it 30 degrees, and I think that's the vertical angle. Still think that's probably a little small. Let's see what perception set does. Maybe we can just use it directly. So perception set. Oh, it does its own queries. It has its own time interval. This is not bad, actually. What's the time interval set to by default? So every fifth of a second, every 200 milliseconds, it will query the physics engine. And keep track of who's in and who's out. Yeah. So we got like the things entered, the things exited. This is fine. We could just use this directly. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, that's always nice. So let's just pull these in. We want what do we want? We want in my day job, we're porting an application from like a monolithic single database per install to like more of a microservices federated databases and stuff like that. And so automatically when we're porting things from the old code to the new code, there's this distrust that the old code may have been garbage. We should just check it. We shouldn't just copy things directly because we might have to rethink them working from a single database to, or single instance databases to multiple federated databases, etc., etc., etc. And I forget that in Mythruna, I wrote most of the old code, and so some of it's bound to be savable. Yeah, so they've got a center of gravity attachment and the eye attachment. Yeah, man, this is good stuff. Switching to different DB entirely. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but that's pretty standard, right? We're going with a more enterprisey solution, and this is day job stuff. I don't want to really get into it, but yeah, we're going from a all embedded in one server per installation. So if you had 500 customers, each of them gets their own little thing, and they can, and it makes it difficult if they need to talk to each other for any reason, to like a federated, in the cloud kind of thing. So different database entirely. Fun challenges, but these are more interesting. RDS, yeah. Yeah. It was like using, I don't remember exactly which one. There's like the embedded Java database. There's like HyperSQL and HSQL, and there's a couple of them. And I don't remember off the top of my head which specific one, but yeah, they're moving like a real database. Yeah, RDS in this case, right? Because that's what everybody's doing. So the brain So brain, where'd you go? Okay, so we got a lot of things in here that eventually I have to port as well. New agent driver. There's where we want to be. Let's keep it near the brain because, let's see, perception stuff. I'm going to try to like keep this straight and make it easier to port. Okay, so some of this is going to flat out fail, I believe. Let's see if it even compiles. It did! Alright. That's good. Alright, so we will go back over here. Here. Go back over here. And yeah, that's right. And agent in this case is the entity. Yep. You guys, why don't I eat before I get on these things? Okay, so for right now, really should be character specific. Let's move this back to 30 because I figured that's probably better. All that should be, oh, it's not agent anymore. It's going to be, I don't think I keep track of the entity ID here. Just in case. I know it's on the body. We don't have a body yet. Yes, we do. Okay, so then I can change. Basically, we don't want the site or the perception, the personal space bubbles to hit us, so we skip them. So we make sure not to include those in our query results. Yay! Yeah, so that's what probably caused it. Just read it. Yep. There's no indirection here. In Mythruna, there's like the mphys, or the system that we get the physics space from, and there's no indirection here. And so alright. Watch YouTube give me copyright strike for whistling a tune. Okay, doke. So then we can see again. Okay. Center on her and her elf horns. Alright. Oh, it's already 10 o'clock. Okay, so that's set up but not updated. Let's see what updates it in the old code. Agent driver. Yes, we are going to want to provide getters for those, but not just yet. Yeah, that's the other thing, is we need to set up the eye attachment and the cog attachment. And I might actually change the perception set stuff to manage that, because this is ugly. And we do this right at the beginning before anything else. Yeah. So down here in the update, right at the beginningest of the beginning, we update the stuff. Is it going to compile? Well, what you know, it compiled. Okay, so now we are also going to have to mess with the eye attachment. Looking that up. Aye, aye, Captain. Oh, who lives in a pineapple under the sea? Absorbent and yellow and porous is he. I don't know why I've just got like random songs running through my head today. There's one that runs through my head constantly though. And it's not SpongeBob. On a personal note, I've been setting up my music studio in the basement. I carved off a little room. As long as nobody's doing laundry, it's the quietest room in the house, and have been setting up the drums and other things. Okay, so no rig. That's a problem. I think rig is... rig is the same as body shape. See, in Groovy, I can get away with that. But yes, I took a little bit of my tax refund money to get myself some microphones and stuff to mic the drums, and I have some vocal mics and things. So just trying to set up my little mini studio downstairs to record some music. And it's actually been a real help with Mythruna because this is becoming a slog getting all this stuff done. This has been a lot of work. Yeah, some music for Mythruna I would do up here because that's mostly strings and stuff. But any live music that I would need, I would do downstairs now because it's just so much easier trying to record guitar vocals down there in that little studio than it is up here. But for a lot of the Mythruna stuff, I'm using, VST instruments that I purchased, the Miroslav Philharmonic, different instrument packs that I've, over the years, paid money for. So I had that going for me. Alright, so, but yeah, in my off time, like, I go do open mics and I write my own, like, songs with, like, actual words and stuff. And so I'd like to record some of that. I have recorded a lot of it already, but I have at least one new song that I've never recorded, and it's my favorite of the songs that I've written, so I really like a recording of it. Okay, so let me just see. We actually might be working. Does the perception set log anything? So in a second I'm gonna like add some really verbose logging, I think. Okay, so we don't get any logging here, but let's log entered and exited, but first let's make sure it's even updating this stuff. Yeah. So if we log I Captain, get translation. Are we getting a bunch of I? We do! Awesome. Okay, so this is not an actual accurate debug of that, but hopefully it's similar. Okay, so then let's turn that off. But instead of... So, oops, I probably should save so that it stops logging. Okay, so let's look at the perception set again. This is gonna, if I can reuse this, is gonna save a tremendous amount of time. Sometimes past me was pretty clever. The same thing happened with what was it? Something that I wanted to see over here. It might have been the... Wasn't the animations? Yeah, it was like the door animations and stuff. I was prepared to have to write a bunch of custom visualization code, but it turns out those systems in Mythruna were written so well that they're independent of Mythruna for the most part, and so as long as I had like the same entity components and stuff, I could just use them directly. I didn't have to make any modifications. I just added the system, and suddenly doors could be opened and closed. Chests could be opened and closed. It was awesome. Sometimes I feel like I know what I'm doing. Agent driver, we want perception set. That's the one. Entered, exited. Okay. So if site perception is something else entirely. Entered. Let's just make it proper Java. If not, freaky frick. Could it be a JME plug? Not that general. It's like the opening and closing of doors and chests is using an entity component that that part is specific to Mythruna, and this whole visualization run in the environment it's run in has access to all of the Mythruna classes, but so many of them depend on the game world that they won't run in here. But it turns out opening and closing, the animation of opening and closing doors just worked. In fact, I just dropped the system in and already the physics was hooked up. I had to do a little bit to get the visualization side hooked up. But yeah, the ability to open and close chests and stuff, that was, I expected, I set aside 5 or 6 hours to make that happen, and I had it working in 20 minutes, and I was very happy. All right, so let's log them. Entered. And let's do get exited. Oh, excuse me. Exited. Not the same as get excited. Spelled similarly. Yeah, it'll always take longer. Okay, so that thinks I'm constantly seeing something entered into my view. That's not right. Entity 17, whatever that is. Is that me? Nope, I'm entity 33, so it must be the table. Let's turn and see. Alright, let's move so that nothing is in my... No objects are... come on. Oh, I am stuck. I am well and truly stuck. There we go. Alright, so I shouldn't have anything in my perception now. Of course, it's going to take this a long time to catch up. Oh, no. things enter but they never leave, is what I'm gathering here. Let's turn these off. I don't know why I don't just put everything behind these little if flags. Alright, I'm going to have to kill this because we're never going to catch up. It could be that I never clear this. So let's look at site perception. What is the life cycle of site perception? We have to update it. That's all. That's all we need to do is update it. Oh, but the brain, the old brain, I bet you would clear it. Yeah, so every time we check it, we have to clear the pending state. Yeah, so so the physics engine ticks away, not the physics engine, the driver, well, I mean, technically it is physics engine. So every update, we let the perception thing update. It either will or won't update its personal space stuff. But then after I check it, I need to clear the pending state, because otherwise it'll just keep building up everything that's in view. Yeah, so it won't. That actually won't work right until I've started the. Let's try one more time, just to make sure everything's kosher. Everything has compiled correctly. All right. Let's make a elf female again. We will put her here where she shouldn't be able to see anything. Let's see, can she see any objects? No, she should not be able to see any objects. And so, if we set this back to true, we should not get like a ton of logging. Correct, we do not. But as we look around, when we see the objects, they should enter and exit the view. So if I control her, yeah, so see we got like stuff entering and exiting the view, and we could add some debugging to make that really clear. Yeah, so let's. I've found that a little debugging goes a long way. But now let me think how to do this in a way that is easy to clean up. I think that okay, shape helpers attached to I don't think I can have different kinds though. Yeah. So I've still got to manage an entity per. Too many things in this file. Yeah, I need to port the probes. Okay, let's see. Down here. What do I want to do? I want to every mob is going to be doing this. And so ideally I would indicate which mob can see what thing. Well, first of all, let's see, do we have debug entities in here? No. I'm trying to make sure if we reset this, it'll delete all of the things that it's viewing. And so there is a nav thing here that I can do stuff with. And so let's do stuff with. So let's do static ID draw link vec3d from vec3d to color RGBA color. Okay. And so do I want to do it that way? All right, let's just get something done, right? Just debug entities, that's fine. So yeah, that's not what we want to do. Let's just copy this for a second. I just want to get something working, and then we will refine it. So we got debug entities. We're going to make a box using name just for now. Color true. Add frame from. Let's do it on 2. Okay, so we'll just initially just draw the link and then remove the link later. Okay, so this is brain debug draw link. Let's go down to here where we down here. So just real quickly, CMap. Oops. Okay, so that's not what I wanted. Okay, entity ID debug equals brain debug draw link site my location. I think I could just say so it's body position and then the position of the thing, which we will say is what we really want to do is for entity ID scene, or in, just call it ID okay, so we will make it entity ID debug view. So I could just do ID location, I think, and then color RGBA cyan, and then CMap put ID debug view, right? And that should make it show it, and then we want to say anything that has exited entity ID debug view equals cmap.get ID if debug view not equal to null ed remove entity debug view. I think that I have an ed. I do. Okay. So let's see if that blows up. So this, I mean, it should do something, but not something great. Oh boy. Yeah, we failed hard. Cannot cast object blah 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 static body. And that is in 1295. Entered. Oh, it's the bodies. Of course. That's actually better. No, we don't want that. Scene body. Or let's call it perceived. And this one too. Def perceived. And so perceived.id. Let's try that. Oops, we're going to need this too. Alright, let's try again. Control. Oh yeah, look, we're getting all kinds of... See, as I move, you can see the... so watch as I turn a little bit the chair, these little blue boxes that it'll show as I move like this. See, as she can't see them, now she can see them, and the ones up top. Now technically it doesn't take into account that she can't actually see those through the wall, but that's a second pass that I'll have to take. Just so she can see the stair object. Can she see the chest, or is it too far out of her view? The chest should be in her view. Nope, the chest sits just above her view. So if she walks a little closer to the chest, she should be able to see the chest. Oh no, close is the wrong direction. Because the way her view frustum is shaped. Person view frustum is very similar to render view frustum. Correct. Correct. Yeah, so she can't actually see that chest up there because she can't look up. And that's why I feel like the view frustum here probably needs to be taller. So let's make it taller. And then I don't know if that actually made it any taller. I guess it did. Yeah, because she can almost see that chest now. So if she backs up a little bit, she should be able to see it. Assuming it's still in her range. Okay, so let's try Control. She should be able to like just clock it. Alright. My debug view might be slightly off from reality as well. Okay, so yeah, because this chair keeps going in and out. So I'm going to guess my debug view is slightly off from reality, but because this chair keeps coming in and out of view. And so what we want is probably we should color code them by object type, but with the link I wanted to actually draw a line between where she saw it and yeah. So, and that there's a limitation there that's also a feature in that it will be static at the time she saw it. Even if it's a moving thing, like it entered her perception, we will get a little line at the point she saw it. It won't keep updating as the thing moves. It won't keep updating as she moves. So that's a limitation, but it's also a feature because we capture exactly the position it was when it entered her view, which is kind of cool. So I think that we'll use the create arrow. Let me look and see what options I have, actually. Because if I have a line, I'd rather use a line. Oh, you know it's a good live stream when the Pepsi starts to get warm. Means I was focused. Yeah, because there's still like a quarter of this, maybe a third. Okay, what was I doing? We want the playground view state, debug view state. I believe debug shape is here. Create arrow. Yeah, I can only create an arrow. Okay. But that is okay. That will have to do. There we go. So we want to, let's just call it shape. Debug shape, create arrow, name, the tip we want to be 2, let's do from subtract 2, so that we can leave the shape where we're positioning it. And so then here, we want to say shape here. I think that should work. So when she sees something, it will point back to her. Yeah, look at that. Oh, she's seeing lots of things that are not correct here. Oh, that's the arrows. Okay. The arrowheads. That's where those extra lines are. Oh, she can see the chest. Nice. The other thing I should do is make it so that it's pointing to the center. So draw a link. And instead of location, let's do center. Thanks. Yeah, it's always exciting when it works the way it's supposed to. Alright, so now we do to the center of the object, it's a little better. Yeah, that's pretty neat, I gotta say. Yeah, so see, as she moves around, that's still in view. It's so this chair is still in her view from before, but this is where she first saw it. And so that's kind of a cool feature / limitation. Actually, I have a I have this coin. Somebody gave it to me for my birthday, one of my fellow programmers, and it's got I don't know if you can see it. On one side it's got a bug, and on the other side it's got feature, which is a line through the bug. And so you can flip a coin if you want to decide, is this a bug or a feature? Anyway, I like that coin. All right. So that's cool. What do we do for the next half hour? Nice. Yeah, that's one of the more clever birthday presents I've gotten from a coworker. So what was I gonna do? Oh yeah. You know what? I think we should have a debug line. The fact that all we have is arrow is actually a bit of a limitation to me. So I'm wondering if it's worth really quickly implementing lines. Sometimes I prep meeting with my manager to talk about a bug and walk out knowing it is going to be a feature. Nice. Now the ones that are scary is when they walk in with a list of 2 or 3 bugs and it turns out to be a low-level design issue. Oh no, we got to rip out all of this plumbing, redo it. These aren't actually bugs. They're operating as normal, but the design is broken. All right. So, okay, we have enter and we have exit. I think I'm having trouble figuring out exactly what I want to try to cram into in half an hour. So I'm going to make a line debug shape since we were just there. So let's implement that real quick. And then I will also make those color coded based on the type of object, whether it's a mob or a static object. Oh yeah, we could do better than that. We could have it be color coded based on whether it's a static object or, in fact, we could ignore static objects probably, but static object, a real physics object, like if you bump into it, it'll knock over, or a actual mob, like another mob or a player. But first, let's go over here. Debug shape. Yep, let's add a line. Okay, so we want to say, let's just add a new one of these. Oh, that's going to be a problem, actually. I've kind of changed my mind. So line requires 2 points where everything else so far has required only 1 point. So I am not going to implement lines. Oh wait, no, we can. I'm going to implement line the same way I did arrow. So you still have to position the root of it, and it will point in the direction of your offset, but it won't be... Okay, that'll work. And then the debug view, let's see where we do arrow. Okay, so then if it's a case line, mesh equals new. I think JMonkey Engine has a line mesh. I think it's confusing because it also has a line class and a line mesh. Yeah. Start in, so we'll start at 0, 0 and end at where we gave it. So new line, and it's going to get confused. So we'll say com JME3 scene.shape, scene.shape.line, and then it was start end. Yeah, that's what I thought. So new new vector3 f, why not? And then we want size to vector 3f. Okay, wire equals true. Actually, I don't think it matters in this case, except for, yeah, that way we'll apply the line width. So I think that's all we needed to do to support arrow, so or line. So we'll install the code. Come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Okay, let's go ahead and run the thing. Okay, so she can see those. Yeah, so there's a little bit of oh, so she can see them because that table is within her. Let's see how accurate it is. So if I turn just a little bit, yeah, that's right. It always flips around 180 degrees. Okay, so we're at the very, very edge. Okay, very, very edge. That's right where it appears. Yeah, so there's a little slop in the frustum check. It's like as she moves a little bit. It's not clear that I'm 100% accurate in my debug view either, and it's close enough. Right? It doesn't need to be perfect. Okay. Okay. Let's change these two lines. First of all, let's move so that we can see a whole bunch of crap. Okay, so my problem with this is that, see, we've got all these arrowheads, and that potentially obscures useful information. And so I wanted to be able to do lines. And so now we can do lines if we go to the correct file. And so if we find draw link, boink, we can instead create line. And we actually don't need to change anything because it's same. Okay. Uh-oh. Still drawing an arrow. Oh, did I not put a break? Maybe I didn't put a break. I didn't put a break. Poop. Okay, so that I gotta reinstall, reload. All right. Have any of you ever uploaded one of your live performances to YouTube before? Like, I was, so I go to a regular open mic locally, and made other music friends there, and then some of the music friends and we put together a band last Halloween called the Unnamed Halloween Band that we played at Halloween time. The open mic night that was near Halloween, we played a bunch of Halloween songs like Thriller and Werewolves of London and stuff like that. And we recorded. We had somebody was filming it, so we uploaded those to YouTube to share, privately. I wonder if anybody of you have ever done that. And then when YouTube gives you a copyright strike, not copyright strike, but it detects the copyrighted material. So we weren't monetizing; it was private videos anyway. But it detected the copyright material because there's a song in there, that. I felt a little proud at the time because, YouTube recognized that was actually the song. It's kind of dumb, but I just wondered if anybody else has had that experience. Okay, let's put this here. Yay, lines! Alright, now let's color code them based on what they are. That's right. Okay. Color RGBA. Color equals color RGBA red, and then we will switch. Oh no, we do if. Yeah, it's funny. I think the one that I was especially proud of is Thriller because we're a bunch of people who were definitely not Michael Jackson playing real instruments, and I was doing the organ, and it was definitely Thriller, and we got compliments and stuff, but just such a different arrangement that I would not have necessarily thought that it would picked out as the song, but it definitely picked that up as Thriller, which I thought was kind of fun. Received instance of well, it's a private, so it's not a copyright strike. It just means if I tried to monetize it. So there's two different kinds of copyright stuff on YouTube, because YouTube has a license to allow, depending on the artists, it's not even the artist, it's the whatever music conglomerate owns their recordings. Depending on the deal they have with Google, the songs can be on the platform, but any money generated by that goes to the company who owns the particular rights to that song. And then there's other ones I think what you call it, Hotel California, which you can't even play. People have had copyright strikes for just playing the opening riff to the solo, stuff like that. If I whistled the solo to, which I could do, if I whistled the solo to Hotel California, I might have my video copyright blocked or something. There's some songs that Jake absolutely cannot do because they're not YouTube is not licensed to play them. And some of them it's just you get, if you were, I'm not monetizing any of this stuff. But if I did, then I would get demonetized on things like that. Yes, we do. We definitely do. So let's say let's see if that works. I missed it. Color RGBA. Let's see if I spelled something wrong. I think it's static body. Okay, that did not do what I wanted it to do. I wonder if it really compiled. Because oh no, I'm an idiot. I didn't switch the color here. I mean, on the one hand, yes, it's a bit dystopian, but it could be worse, right? We could have all of this copyright stuff still happening, but that if you wanted to post yourself playing a video of you playing the song on YouTube, that you had to get the licensing yourself. That would be worse. It sucks anyway, but that would be worse. Licensing is weird. IP, intellectual property, is weird. Alright, so we've got that working. So else if perceived is No, they're always going to be rigid body if they're not that. And so then we want to say if perceived dot shape instance of, can I just say rig? No, I don't need the else. Nope, it didn't like that at all. Rig, it doesn't know what rig is. Well, that we might, oh no, apparently it's character rig, I bet. I wish for fair use policy, meaning large corp wouldn't chase everyone just because they have the tech to do so. Yeah. Well, and it gets crazy because some people get copyright strikes on their own work because somebody creates a derivative work of it and then submits, their version copyright claim, and so the person who originally uploaded it then gets copyright strikes against them, even though they were the original author of the piece. That's not right either. Okay, so all those are static. Let's... I can't make a non-static object, I think. But what I can do is make another... Let's put the dog here. Yeah, see? Although the center of the dog seems to be underneath the dog. That's a little bit problematic. But let's make the dog turn around so that it can see the player. Yeah, so see, check that out. Okay, so the dog can see the player and the player can see the dog. Actually, dog keeps looking away. So the player can't see the dog now because the player, not the player, the elf female needs to turn to see the dog. Now she can see the dog, he can see. Yeah. So yeah, they're the body position. So it's tough to see which one's which. Except for the dogs, which should keep disappearing. So yeah, the whole center thing doesn't work very well with... but anyway, it is working. So that's kind of cool. Alright, so I think that's probably... we could spend a few more minutes working on bandit costumes, I guess. But let me think if there's anything else I can add here. Well, for one thing, those black lines are really annoying. So let's change that for sure. I think it supports. So let's do 0, 0, 0, 0.25. So it'll be at least semi-transparent. Trying to think what else I might. Yeah, that's better. And so then if I make one of these guys face the other one. Yeah, okay, so now we've got... Now if he walks in front of the other guy... Yeah, so now he can see him. Now we can see each other. While we are here, let's do the same thing for the perception set. So we have sight perception... But let us also do... Oh yeah, personal space is a problem too because we're not clearing that one. Personal space. So every time we check it, we need to clear it. Okay, so... Okay, we'll just... Oh, whoops. This is faster. Okay, let's use different colors for in personal space. So we'll give this one 1, and this one will do yellow. So if a character's in our personal space, or if a body is in our personal space. I think I got all these converted. Apparently I did something wrong. Cannot invoke get data because inbuff is not okay. Somebody is unhappy. Oh. That could just be a JME bug, to be honest. That could have been not my fault at all. I am based, all my stuff's based on an older version of JMonkey engine. There's been plenty of bug fixes to the batch node stuff since then. Alright, so let us place a elf female somewhere where she's going to have stuff within her perception bubble. Center camera. Yeah, so you can't tell, I think, but I believe those are red. Let's make them not transparent so we can see for sure. Yeah, okay, so these are objects within her perception bubble. They're oh, the chair shouldn't be. I need to debug that, probably. So let's see if when she turns around, if anything, how far she has to be. Yeah, so see, these are still in her perception bubble. That's not right. It must be centered on her. And it... okay, we've got a... something is not clearing itself up correctly. Oh, no, no, no. I'm using the same map for both things. And so, like, one, if she sees it and it's in her personal space, one clobbers the other. And so that leaves leaking resources. Okay. Alright, center the camera on her. So see, I don't think this table should be in her personal, quote-unquote, personal space, but this is something we can tweak. Because the idea being it should be mostly stuff in front of her. But let's see how far we have to turn to get it out of our... how far away do we have to be? Yeah, so it's centered right on her, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. And that's probably okay for the moment. Alright, so this is working. It's kind of cool, actually. So this is like one of the last things. In fact, let's look at our list from before. View queries. Yeah, so view queries. We can put a done here. We still need to convert it back over. Well, I mean, it is Java code, but I need to put it in the yeah, in fact, I'm gonna call it done. Oops, let's change the... I have a convention I'm using here. And we'll call it done because we're just reusing the code that's already there. That's no big deal. Cool Jira theme. This is just my word processor. So that got done, so we got more green. Let's just call this all done. turned out to be a lot easier. So now I can use this to create triggers. So when things move in and out of the view, we can send signals to the brain, and the brain can execute certain things. One thing I haven't done, and the reason she can shout, "Hey!" See, I don't know if you can see that, but she can shout, "Hey, hey, 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 hey," is because I wanted to give the NPCs sort of hearing as well. But right now I'm just trying to get everything integrated with at least as good as it was with the new nav and stuff like that and the new architecture. So I'm not going to stray too far outside of what I already had. So I think this is cool. So from this I can make signal generators and stuff. I can start porting over. Everything we've been doing is inside this new agent driver, which is supposed to replace the old Mythruna agent driver. I can start formalizing this into Java code with kind of a bridge adapter. Actually, I think it's already doing what I need to do to bridge this, and so then it'll be just set up, ready to go. The other thing I've started working on is how the Groovy brain configurations will work, so that we can move that over to more like the object definitions, where we can define sort of how a creature behaves right in the Groovy scripts for the game. So yeah, we're getting real close. I was kind of hoping I could get to the point where we can make real bandits next weekend, but I think it may be the next weekend. We'll see. It's hard for me to gauge at this point what's left to wrap up, because I keep finding one more thing. Why not leave it in Groovy? So I like to have the low-level stuff in Java because it will be faster. The call stacks for Groovy are crazy, and it's doing all this dynamic dispatch for every one of these things you call. And so this I will move over into Java, but I will also reorganize and formalize it and get rid of some of this crap and still make it somewhat pluggable so that we can still run in the prototype. One of the things I don't want to lose is the ability to do testing here, navgraph testing. So I want to leave the hooks in to be able to still show these visualizations, still be able to say, what does it look like to navigate specifically to this, how does that look? I still want to be able to do this with custom nav functions and things and test them out, because especially I still haven't implemented flying properly, the same as the birds and stuff in regular Mythruna. They don't do proper flying. It's kind of a hack. And so the nav function for a flying creature will be way different because it can go in any direction all the time. And I may have to implement some optimizations with respect to that as well. Anyway, you get the idea. No, it's not just about converting it, because as I do it, I rethink some of the things. This is kind of when I did this in the prototype, I'm just glomming it all together without thought, right? And then as I move it over to Java, I reorganize it. I turn it into something that I might be able to move over to the open source packages. I figure out what's Mythruna specific, what's not. Which of these is candidates for moving over at some point, and I try to keep the separation. So I prefer to do it myself. Plus, I code review all day. That's my 90% of my day job is code review. I don't want to do that at night, and that's what programming and AI is like for me. I have to just code review all the time. I like writing code. I really like writing code. So what I don't like is necessarily debugging code for a week, but that's different. Yeah. So all right. I think that's where we will stop it. Look, as you can see all the things. Pretty cool. All right, guys. Anything else before we shut it down? Oh, I read code. Oh man, I read so much code. That's how I've been involved in open source stuff since the beginning, and in fact, like back when I did C and C++ development, we were contractors that were called in to go and deal with other people's code, huge like million line C++ code bases that we had to dig in and like get productive in because they fired their whole development team but still wanted development and stuff. That's just the kind of work we used to do. So I've read a lot of code. I read code very well, and I stray away from things that would dull my ability to read code. All right. So let me say that will be it, unless there's anything else. There's still time for last minute questions. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you joining me. Like, comment, subscribe. If you're working on productive endeavors this week, I hope you have tremendous productivity. I hope to also have tremendous productivity and come back next weekend with like some cool stuff to show. Hopefully we can start working on bandits soon or some other kind of like mob, and then maybe actually like how to like hack and slash and stuff and take damage. But we'll see. Anyway, thanks guys. See you next time.